Hey there, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward. And in today's video, I'm joined by a special guest, Bryan Bursey, who has gone through the Muscle After 40 blueprint. And he is one of our latest success stories within the program. And the thing that I like about Bryan's success story is it's a bit different than some of the other ones that I've featured, because in Bryan's case, he didn't have a whole lot of weight to lose from a body weight point of view, but he did want to improve his body composition. Like he was kind of what we would categorize as skinny fat. So he really lost some of that stubborn body fat, built lean muscle, but more importantly, he dramatically improved his athletic performance. And Bryan has since went on to compete in some endurance events. He competed in his first marathon. He even went on to compete in a triathlon, a half distance Ironman triathlon. So we're going to be sharing Bryan's training, Bryan's story, how he went through the Muscle After 40 blueprint, and how he's applied this to not only improve his body composition, lose body fat, but to improve his stamina as well, and then go on to compete in some long distance endurance events. So if that's something that's on your bucket list, like potentially running a marathon or even doing an Ironman, then you'll definitely want to stay tuned and listen to this interview. Hey, how's it going? It is your muscle building and fitness coach, Lee Hayward, and today I am joined by Bryan Bursey, who's one of the guys who've gone through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program. And Bryan has made an amazing transformation, and we're going to talk about that during this video. First off, just kind of introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So originally from Cornerbrook,
Mm-hmm.
so west coast of Newfoundland. After high school, left and saw a little bit of Nova Scotia, some Alberta, and then started traveling overseas for work. That was kind of the start of the challenges, and it was after that overseas work, or towards the end of that overseas work, that I got connected with you.
And you were working in a country that most people wouldn't have known if it wasn't for a comedy film.
Yeah, and six years kind of in and out of Kazakhstan, both
Yes.
living there and rotating in and out, kind of doing one of those month on, month off schedules.
So did you see Borat over there?
Yeah, no, he's not super popular in the country. It's probably best not to mention him.
So you're working in the oil industry there,
Yeah.
and then that's what you're also doing now. That's a hard lifestyle to live. And I know like a lot of guys do that, whether it's
Yeah.
working in oil camps or mining camps or offshore. It's a similar lifestyle where there's so many weeks away and so many weeks home. It's really a shock to the system each time because there's two different diets, two different lifestyles, two different routines, and you're constantly bouncing back and forth between those. So how did that impact your health and wellness and fitness to
Certainly prior to
Yeah.
connecting with you,
Mhm.
it was really easy to get into a bad routine in one of those camp
Sure.
environments. So lots of calories coming in and not a lot going out. So that was a challenge. And then, like you said, kind of the living two different lives. You kind of, it was a dry camp, but tons of calories, not a lot of activity.
Mhm.
And then you come home and you've got more options available to you, but you're only there for a month, then it's hard to kind of get settled and get into a routine or
Sure. Yeah.
kind of live a healthier lifestyle for 28 days and then go back to doing nothing. It's hard to be consistent.
Like we've met before. You reached out to connecting with me over
Yeah.
the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program because we both raced in Targa. You're still involved with auto sports because I see it on your social media. You're still doing
Yep.
some kart racing and stuff all over the world, actually. Like I've seen you over in Europe doing it and throughout the States. And obviously, you know, Alberta has some tracks there as well.
Yep. It's
But
one of the things that with moving for work, I had, haven't gotten started in motorsport. It was a
Mhm.
cool opportunity to go meet some new people in those different countries. And now I get to travel back every now and then and keep enjoying it.
I've kind of stepped aside from the auto racing and gotten into bicycle racing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what, so I'm the motor now, and from the health point of view, it's actually much better, and
For
it's more
sure.
effective, cost effective as well. Even though cycling's not cheap, but it's cheaper than motorsports.
I'm still convinced you can make any hobby as expensive as you'd like.
You certainly could. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you reached out to me at the spring, I believe it was March of 2022. What was going on then? Like what was the motivation to want to make a change?
Yeah, I had a very effective little inflection point in life with separation and prescription for cholesterol meds in a
Hmm.
24-hour period.
Wow. Okay.
So it was the kick of the pants that I needed to go make a change.
Unfortunately, that's usually the way it works. People don't change when things are going well. There has to be something. There has to be like you have to hit some rock bottom or some challenge, some struggle, something to really give you that wake up call.
Yep.
I think Anthony Robbins has got a good quote on that. He says, when we succeed, we party. When we fail, we ponder." Something along those lines, right? So when you have those struggles, those failures, those setbacks, whatever you want to call them, that's when we kind of go looking. Okay, we need to find a solution. So in your situation, like you're not overweight, like you never were by today's standards overweight. Like you're not. Oh, I'm 250 pounds plus obese. Like you were by average people standards, you'd be like, okay, this guy's fit and trim. Like, why do you want to reach out for fitness and nutrition advice?
But
Yeah.
I had gone through a period where I had been, fit and active, but, did a little
Mhm.
bit of short distance triathlon stuff. I was always a downhill skier and
Yeah.
had fitness for that. But then I went through kind of a work dominated period where,
Mhm.
I put on a little bit of weight, but I also
Yeah.
lost a lot of fitness. And so,
Mhm.
skiing for a full day was hard and it shouldn't have been.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a desire to kind of get back to that. And I think I did end up dropping a reasonable chunk of weight and getting a lot more fit and even moved from kind of the shorter triathlon type stuff into more, the longer distance stuff.
I know one of the things we were working towards was I remember a half marathon, but I believe you did a full marathon as well, didn't you?
Working towards that now. So I've done 3 half marathons.
Hmm.
So since connecting with you, and then so I did a half Ironman last fall, kind of some open water swimming, and then middle of January I'll do my first marathon in Houston as well. It's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are some big milestones, and I respect that. Like, I've really gotten into endurance training and
Yeah.
taken it more serious over the last several years. Because in my case, I come from a bodybuilding and powerlifting background. Like, bodybuilding was my primary sport. I did kind of supplement that with some powerlifting. Then getting into endurance training, it's like chalk and cheese. Like there's yes, it's exercise, yes, it's fitness, but it's the extreme ends of fitness. And I found that I really learned a lot from studying and just learning about endurance training, like the differences in nutrition, the differences in mindset and the approach that you take. I find that I'm much more well-rounded with fitness having gone through that because I can appreciate both sides and I can see how both can complement one another. The old school ways was like anybody who's involved with bodybuilding, oh, don't do cardio, that's going to make you skinny and you'll lose muscle. And then vice versa, all the endurance guys, well, don't do any weight training because it's going to make you muscle bound. And now we're seeing the blend because we're realizing, hey, we can take the best of both worlds and actually combine them to get optimal results. And yes, you'll still prioritize whatever your chosen sport is. I mean, an elite level marathon runner is not going to be stepping on a bodybuilding stage, and vice versa. You know, a professional bodybuilder is not going to be running a marathon, but you can still combine the best of both worlds in your chosen sport. And I've really come to appreciate that more so over the last several years. So it helped even like when you were getting ready for these events like the half marathons and stuff. I could speak your language, so to speak, because I could understand the differences of doing those long distance endurance sports. And nutrition is a totally different, like fueling for those events is totally different than doing cardio for fat loss for a bodybuilding show. You know,
Yeah,
big difference.
that was a steep learning curve that fortunately I got help with. Yeah, trying to figure out how to carry and take in enough calories to get through a 5+ hour
It
half hour or
changes.
something like that. Like you gotta have a plan for that and execute that plan, or
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No, because I mean, we store glycogen in the muscles and the liver, and we can store about 2 hours worth of intense exercise worth of calories if your cardio session or your workout is 2 hours or less, you can get by without having any special intra workout nutrition. Like you can just have, a pre-workout meal and you're good to go. But once it gets beyond that and you're into the 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, or however long, I mean, if you're getting into the Ironman, it's into the double digit hours, if you're doing full Ironmans. And that's when intra workout nutrition, it can literally make or break everything. And I didn't realize that until I went through it myself, because coming from the bodybuilding background, like a cardio workout was usually an hour max.
Yeah.
Like that was cardio. And I never understood that once you go beyond, okay, you do 2 hours, 3 hours, so you're into a different territory, a different zone entirely. And the analogy I like to use is almost like if you've never run out of gas in your car, like you've run low, you've seen the gas light pop on, but you've never ever ran out of gas before. You might say, hey, there's no big deal, right? I can keep driving. But when you run out of gas, like you run out of gas, the car stops moving. That's what happens when you run out of glycogen. It's just like hitting that wall. They refer to it as bonking, and I'm sure you've probably experienced that at a point or another. People have, and it's a unique experience for sure, and it's not a pleasant one. But like you can go from, hey, everything's going great, just like your car will still be running fine when the gas light is flashing. Once you run out of gas, it's blah, 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 blah. There's nothing there, and that's the way your body functions. So yeah, that's a big change that I had to learn. That in bodybuilding, it's totally opposite, because a lot of times people are doing fasted cardio and doing it for a fat burning effect, and it's a lower duration cardio. Again, an hour would be a big cardio session for a bodybuilder. For an endurance athlete, I mean, I know a lot of guys, they're not even going to get changed into their kit for an hour of cardio. Like, it's too short.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting experience as the kind of volume has gone up, fitness has improved. Yeah, now what used to be a long run on a weekend is lunch hour quick workout, middle of the week, and you do 4 of them.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fun to see the progress.
You build up the strength and the stamina. I mean, it's not overnight by any stretch, but when it's done consistently over the course of weeks and months and then, years, you can really see a noticeable difference. Like I know the first time I ever did a 100-kilometer bicycle ride, it killed me. Like I was useless for days afterwards. And now I can do a 100-kilometer bicycle ride and still carry on with the rest of my day afterwards and feel fine the next day. It's not that big a deal anymore. Whereas at one time it was like that was a major event.
I remember the same thing, doing 100 kilometers on the bike, and it taken maybe more than 4 hours, and then sleeping from like the time I got home until the next day, just to survive.
Yeah.
And now it's like you said, you kind of go out and you knock out a 90 or 100K bike ride. For me, that might be part of a brick session. You come back and you do a short run, and then you shower and you go buy groceries or something.
Continue on, right? It's amazing how your work capacity and that can build up from there. But like let's just go back to Bryan of 2022 now, a couple of years ago. I took some notes there. I know you were 165 pounds when you reached out to me, and you mentioned cholesterol was an issue and stuff like that.
Yep.
Where are you now? Like, what's your current weight?
So I'm consistently between 140 and 145, which is
Okay.
not a big dude by any stretch, but
Mhm.
it kind of suits my frame and it works for the endurance sports. So it's been an interesting exercise to actually eat enough to keep the weight on sometimes, with the high training volume weeks. So I have to keep an eye on it, not for going up, but for going down sometimes.
Really? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can lose too much, and
Yeah.
athletic performance will suffer. Strength and power and then stamina will go down as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you've lost a solid 25 pounds of body fat. Also improved your strength, your muscle, and your stamina as well. Like we've seen huge strides there. I know when you were training for the half marathon, I think you hit a personal best at that one.
I had done one half marathon in my heydays, and I did the same event a year ago after I'd gotten into the training and bettered the time on the order of like 10 minutes. This year, a year after that next one, took another 10 minutes off it.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's been incredible I'm an engineer by training, data junkie. So having the numbers, and I like being able to kind of see that.
Sure, have those numbers to verify it. And like, when did you do your first one? I mean, you were in your 30s when you did your first one, weren't you?
Late 20s,
Late
or
20s even. Okay, even early.
late
So,
20s. I hadn't done a lot of long distance kind of endurance
mhm.
sports, so lots of sprint triathlons and stuff like that. But I did the half marathon at that point in like 1:48 or something like that. And so the very first one I did in this new journey was 1:38. And
Yeah,
then a year after on the same course managed to 1:28.
that's awesome. To think that in your 40s you were in better shape than in your late 20s.
And I feel it and look it,
Mhm.
which has been a lot of fun.
Because most people, as we know, don't they don't get better as they age, especially when it comes to fitness and endurance and everything else. It usually goes downhill. Have better cardiovascular fitness in your 40s than you did in your 20s, like that's respectable. I mean, it really is. Kudos to you for that. What's some of the changes you made specifically? Because again, you were in the camp environment. We had several conversations about this. Like, it's not going to be optimal, but it can be better than it was before, right? That was the key thing that we really focused on. Is like, you're not in control of your food. Like, you're not out doing the grocery shopping. You're literally, okay, I'm at a cafeteria in a foreign country with weird foods. How do we make this work? How can we be better than we were before? What are some things that you prioritize to make it better than it was before?
Yeah, certainly, you're limited, but you can make better choices. So you can
Yes.
you can grab an extra salad instead of a dessert if you're hungry. So that was the easy first step. Uh,
Hmm.
the other thing you're not in control of in these canteens, at least the one I was in, was portions, right? Like they feed you the same as they feed the guy that's been swinging wrenches for 12 hours. And I'm the kind of guy, if you put food in front of me, I'm probably going to eat it. See, trying to be a little bit cautious of portion controls. And I know, your programming has that notion of eat till you're 80% full, and, mindful of that as I was going through the journey. And then the other thing was I did pack, half my suitcase was full of, oatmeal, healthy kind of protein bars, something that could be a bit of a substitute for a meal,
Sure.
once a day or something like that. So I wasn't taking in the 3,000 calorie meal 3 times a day, eating one meal in the canteen and then kind of replacing a meal or replacing a couple of meals a day with what I dragged across with me. So yeah, that was kind of the nutrition side of the strategy. And then
Hmm.
the other thing I found in the camp environment is, for me, with creature of habit, and if I could get into the right routine on day one, I had a better chance of sustaining that through the whole rotation. So yeah, I was pretty deliberate about getting to the gym the first day, and then try to make that part of the routine every day as part of the time at site.
And you actually had a pretty decent gym setup at that camp. It wasn't a phenomenal world-class gym, but it was pretty darn good. I mean, it had all the basic equipment that you needed.
I was able to do everything that was kind of listed out for me to do in a day, or substitute it with something to hit the right muscles. And the other thing is I'm a morning person, so I often had that gym to myself.
That's another good strategy too, is if possible, get your workouts done in the morning. Now, I know depending on schedules, that's not always possible for people, but if you can make that work, the morning is usually the best time because you get it done, you get it crossed off your to-do list before you get distracted with all the other responsibilities, chores, and errands, and who knows how busy things are going to get. So if you always say, "Oh, I'll work out later at the end of the day," I mean, fatigue sets in, right? So like we got to factor in the elephant in the room, right? Fatigue. You're going to be tired at the end of the day, and your willpower is directly related to your energy. So if you got low energy, you got low willpower. If you got high energy, you got high willpower. You're not going to have any more energy and willpower than you will first thing in the morning because
Yeah.
you're well rested, you're fresh, get it done, get it crossed off. Then it's like the workout is in the bank. Then, regardless of how busy you get throughout the day, well, at least you got the workout done. That's one victory, right? And I bet you found that would actually increase your energy and productivity throughout the day as well.
It did. I mean, Kazakhstan was 11 or 12 hours time difference from home. Getting started with that early kind of forced me to get up early, get time adjusted. It helped me get through the day. at most I would need an extra cup of coffee the first afternoon or two just to get through the end of the workday. But
Right.
yeah, it definitely helped through the whole rotation. Get that done. It's off my list. I'm not thinking about feeling guilty about not doing it when I run out of motivation after a long work day. So yeah, it was a good routine to get into.
And I love that strategy you mentioned of day one when you start your work rotation, you're going to get a workout done to kind of set that momentum. Because it's interesting you mentioned that there's a couple other guys in the Muscle After 40 program who work similar type of rotational work. One guy in particular I know, he works on one of the offshore oil rigs here. He mentioned in the past he's had this issue where if he gets his workout in on the first day, that kind of sets the tone and he's more likely to continue that habit throughout his rotation. But if he like skips it on the first day, it's easy like ah skip it the next day. And it's just these little in the moment decisions. I mean, it's just like it's such a small thing, but it's like tipping over that first domino, right? And you just keep the momentum going. So if the momentum is stopped in its tracks on day one, it's so easy to keep it stopped in its tracks versus if you tip that first domino over, it's so easy to keep the thing going. And I've heard other people say that, what they do on day one can really make a noticeable difference. It's almost like every week, when Monday rolls around, I always make sure to start off with some form of a good workout, good nutrition plan on Monday, because that helps to carry the momentum throughout the rest of the week.
Yep.
Whereas if you blow Monday off, it's almost like, I'll start again next Monday. Well, that's a powerful strategy. I mean, it's so simple, but it's all those little in the moment decisions. So I'm glad you shared that one. Another thing now, how did you deal with things when you got back home again? I think that was a challenge.
There was a lot of moving around and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. The initial kind of getting the routine up and running phase. But after 28 days of trying to eat well and exercise, started to form a bit of a habit. Even though, you probably suffered a couple of days with jet lag coming back. I think I had more choice over my food, so was able to take care of that a little bit better. And I will say that a lot of the habits from camp life, even though that's behind me now and I'm kind of working a Monday to Friday job in Calgary, I still eat a lot of the same things because I'm a creature of habit and it's easy
Mhm.
and it worked for me at the time. So I still do a lot of the same things. I used the routine from the work environment to translate into, a slightly adapted routine for the time off. I got to add things like cycling and a little more running instead of just weights and treadmills. But yeah, it was easier to sustain on the time off when I kind of had a really good hitch at work and it became a routine.
And would just apply the same rationale, like when you got home, you'd want to like get into your routine as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
yeah,
Again, creature habit. I'm really good at just doing the same thing every day. If I get in the habit of getting up early, get the workout in, know that it's done, and then get on with whatever else I'm going to do that day. And I still do the same thing. I much prefer getting my workouts done early in the morning. Every now and then you need a facility or there's a training group you're with that does things in the evening.
hmm,
It's nice to have some social aspect to it, but
sure,
those late night swim workouts or something wreak havoc on the getting to bed early, getting up early routine.
And has that changed at all? Like, were you always a morning person, or have you made any changes there?
No, I've always been a morning person, but a lot of, in that window where fitness declined, it was I'm going to get up early so I can get an extra 2 hours in the office before it gets busy with dealing with
Mm,
all the other stuff.
right.
And I just, I carve an hour out of that 2 hours and make it my fitness hour. And I'm still in the office early, getting a few things done before people start to really show up.
Nice. And I would bet that makes you more productive. It's not just losing weight and getting in shape, but I mean it's really a lifestyle. Your mental clarity and your efficiency and everything else I find is improved. And I know it has for me. Like when I feel like I'm in the groove of a healthy lifestyle and eating routine and exercise routine, I just feel so much more efficient. And then when I'm not, I feel like I'm like just sluggish. Like it's like you're dragging around an anchor. It's just things are not running as efficiently as they could be.
I agree. I think everything's interconnected, right?
Yeah,
It's the whole body function is one big machine.
yeah,
The other thing that was interesting, a colleague made a comment the other day, because every now and then I'll go to the gym for a treadmill workout at lunch. They made the comment that they thought that was actually a good example to set for others of you don't need to sit at your desk and grind away, and you can take an hour, go to the gym, and
yeah.
find that balance. So
Mm.
I thought that was kind of nice too, to hear that other people are noticing that you can have a life outside of work and still be productive at work.
That's good. I mean, and by you getting in your best shape and doing these things, like other people are noticing, right? Like, so you're leading by example, whether you're intentionally doing that or not, people take notice. And this is so powerful, especially for parents or people who are trying to motivate others or family members. Because like a common question that I hear from people, well, how do I motivate my significant other? Or how do I motivate my kids? Or how do I you can't really motivate anybody. Like you can't I can't force you to do something that you don't want to do. I can kind of lead by example and try and pull you along by hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. It's working for me, and hopefully that inspires you to kind of follow. But you cannot force somebody to do something. I mean, in the short term you can, but it's never going to be a long-term change. And an analogy I always like to use is like think of anybody who's gone through some extreme physical training, like in the military, for example, or a police academy or something like that, where they're forced to go through boot camp, for example. Yes, it works, right? Hands down. Day one of boot camp, finishing day of boot camp, everybody's fitter. Everybody's probably improved their body composition. Like there's marked changes for sure. How many people actually sustain that long after that's done? A lot of people slip back into their old habits again. So you can force somebody to make changes, but it's usually not a sustainable long-term change. But you can inspire somebody to make changes by you leading by example. And that's the way that I go about it, like with my friends and family and everybody else. And I mean, it's not a guaranteed thing 100% of the time, but if someone is on the fence, you leading by example could tip them over. But if someone's not willing to change,
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
nothing we can do to make them change, right? You
But
know,
it's better than it's better, in my circumstance, better than the opposite example where someone
yeah.
just sits at their desk for 12 or 14 hours a day and makes people think that's what you have to do to be
Sure.
successful. Because I did see that a lot as I was a younger employee, which is
Yeah.
probably what led me down the path in the first place. And I think there's a better way to do it.
There was another gentleman in our program who's gone through the Muscle After 40 blueprint, Paul Miller. And you probably
Yep.
seen the video we did with Paul and stuff. And we stay in touch a lot. And one thing that really inspired me about Paul was how first of all, he started working out in his 60s. Like he literally had a heart attack at 62, and that was his rock bottom, which caused him to turn things around.
Yep.
When he was younger, like he was anti-fitness. Like he's growing up like, okay, I'm in the library, I'm a bookworm, I'm a teacher. Like that's what he did for a living. He was a teacher. So he's very focusing on educating the mind, and he was very active in his church. So it's always like be book smart, be go to church, go to school, go to the library. And it was almost like the brains versus the brawn, like the old school mentality. Like, if you're all brawn, you're no brains. And
Yeah.
that was kind of how he visualized it. So he didn't want to be one of those stupid jocks. And nowadays we see there's a connection. There's the mind body connection. And very often as people improve their physical fitness, it has mental and cognitive benefits as well. It's a direct carryover. And I've seen that with my own self. And there's numerous studies that show as people improve their fitness, their mental function and cognitive and efficiency, all that improves as well. So yeah, I mean, you can see the improvements in your work performance, right? I mean, it's amazing to see how, like, I've just known from guys who've gone through this program over the years. I've seen a lot of them gotten job promotions, went on to start their own businesses, or like it's not just physical improvements, but like it carries over into other aspects of their life as well. And I mean, they become more productive in that, and it's just exciting to see the upward spiral that it creates, right? So like what's next for you now, Brian? Like I know you mentioned you got a marathon coming up. So this is a full marathon, right?
Yeah, so full marathon, first of those, it feels like it's going to be a long ways. The other thing I guess I've learned is this is one of the running events where you don't actually train the full distance before you show up for race day.
Hmm.
So I have my last long run tomorrow of 32 kilometers, which means there's an extra 10 kilometers to do on race day that I'll never have done before. So that's going to be interesting. And then I'm loving the lifestyle. So next year I've kind of mapped out, I'm going to do two additional half Ironmans, kind of closer to home this year.
Hmm.
And then a Grand Fondo bike event over the
Yep.
summer. I've never done a bike race. I think it's the 160-kilometer event that I've signed up for. So
160 kilometers, a 100-mile ride, basically. Yeah.
yeah, well, I've never done that before either. So that'll be a first. You know, looking ahead to kind of every couple of months next year, there's something on the calendar that'll keep me motivated and training and
And that's important too, like to have other things outside of just losing weight and getting in shape, like having some sort of sport element in there. I like that, and I find people who incorporate that tend to make better progress because there's an extra bit of motivation, because you have something you're training for with a purpose.
yeah.
And that's another thing, like to differentiate training versus exercise. Because if you're getting ready for a sporting event, a marathon, a Ironman, whatever, like a sportive group ride, like a Grand Fondo or whatever, you're training. You got purpose, right? There's something that you're working towards. Whereas losing weight, getting in shape, and it's kind of just this vague, "Oh, I hope to get there someday." Like, but there's
Yeah.
we're working on it, but there's really no deadline or no motivation. But to have something that you're training for really helps to solidify this and give purpose. And I found myself, if I have something that I'm training for, I make much better progress than this just mindlessly exercising because you're supposed to or because it's good for you.
This sounds way more negative than it is in my brain, but I kind of call it my fear of failure based
Hmm.
issue. And I know I've got something on the calendar. If I've done it before, I know I want to do it slightly better this time. If I've
Sure.
never done it before, I know I want to finish it in a respectable time.
Yeah.
And it's also been kind of a cool, I've got the original half marathon was inspired by a friend in Houston who
Mhm.
jumped back on the fitness bandwagon about a year before I had. So there's been some friends network motivation around all these events as well. So, the marathon is down in Houston where he lives. The first half Ironman next year is in Victoria. He's going to come up from Houston and join
Okay.
me there. So
Yeah.
having a bit of a friends network around it's been kind of fun and motivating as well.
That is huge because you build that social circle. And like the old saying, I think it was Jim Rohn is probably the first person who came up with this idea of we're the average of the five people we spend the most time with. So
Yeah.
you can expand your social circle to include other people who are involved with athletics and not just friends, family, and coworkers who are probably not involved with athletics. You have that extra motivation. And I've noticed myself, like over the last year, I've got a group of people that I cycle with, and we try to have regular group rides throughout the week. And when you're around people like that, they pull you up to a higher level,
Yeah.
right? Because you'll see different people, and of course there'll be people of all fitness levels and all ages. Like in our cycling group, like I'm kind of in the middle, right? As far as age, like I'm 45, but we've got guys in our group who I think the oldest one that I know of is 60, right? And then there's other guys who might be in their early 20s or mid to late 20s. So there's that range. And then same with athletic performance. You'll have people who are really pushing it, and then you have other guys who are just trying to keep keep going. But again, we're there to pull each other up to a higher level. And just being part of that group is so inspiring. And you see the ones who are consistent, they get better, right? Like with just the high tide rises all ships type of thing. It's so powerful because a common thing that I hear from a lot of people is they don't have anybody to inspire them. So they kind of feel like they're self-motivated. And sometimes we got to start like that, right? But once you start getting into these other groups, like say you get involved with endurance training, or even if you get involved with bodybuilding, because that was the way it was for me. I got involved in sport of bodybuilding and then got connected with other bodybuilders. That pulls you up to a higher level, and you can kind of feed off their motivation, and you see that they're making progress. Well, I don't want to fall behind, right? We try to create that even within our Muscle After 40 program, create that community. And we've connected where people are sharing their progress, sharing what's going well, and you want to just keep up with the group.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to be left behind. Like, you don't always have to be the best, but if everybody else is making progress, then you want to be making progress too. That alone can make a noticeable difference. Aside of all the tactics and strategies and everything else, I think your social circle of who's encouraging you to push forward can probably have a bigger impact than even having the so-called best training plan or the best diet plan. Having a support system is probably more important than the best tactics.
Yeah, kudos to you. The coaching, the definition of what you should be doing, and then the accountability model of did you do it?
Yeah, it is so motivating because again, you're just around other people and just seeing how hard they're pushing it, how fast they're going. Because when you're going by yourself, like everybody thinks, oh, I'm doing pretty good. And then you get around other people like, whoa, okay. They're really pushing it, you know? Yeah. So I mean it certainly can help to pull you up to that higher level when you're around others. And even virtually, like I know we follow each other on Strava, for example. Like, so you see what other people are doing there. And even like within our coaching group, like we got our private VIP Facebook group. And another thing that we do regularly now, like over the past year, is we have weekly Zoom calls. So once a week, we'll have like what we're doing here now, basically, but it's just like there could be a half a dozen or a dozen people in the group. And one of the things we always start with is like a little round table discussion. How are things going? Like what went well this week? Why do you celebrate your victories of the week? And just hearing that, I mean, that motivates you to pull you up to a higher level. And then also sometimes people will share their challenges and struggles and how they dealt with it or how they made the best of the situation. So it humanizes the whole fitness and lifestyle aspect of it. Not just, okay, here's your workout, here's your sets and reps, and here's your calories and macros. Like that's so, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's important, but the social side of it, the support side of it, the accountability and all that is much more important than the ideal set and rep and macro split.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sustainment part.
Yeah.
You can't, I don't know. I would have struggled to sustain it in the way that I did without having that support network
Mhm.
and other motivation helping.
I agree with you. I mean, it's a missing element for a lot of people because I mean, we live in a day and age which is amazing because everything is a Google search away. Like if I want to find the best workout, Google best workout. Now, it may or may not be the best workout, but I mean, there's no shortage of workouts out there. Same with diets, right? Like I can Google search what's the best diet, and there's a million results. And a lot of them are right to a certain extent, but the thing is who are they right for? Like a best diet and workout for a bodybuilder is not the best diet and workout for a triathlete. A plan that's ideal for a 20-year-old who's looking to bulk up is not the same as a plan for a 50-year-old who's looking to trim down. So there could be a lot of confusion in that regard, but like there's no shortage of tactics is what I'm getting at. I mean, there's YouTube and Google or everything that we've ever wanted is out there, but sometimes sifting through it can be confusing, and then having the support and the accountability to make sure that you're following it and making the best of this is sometimes the challenging part for sure. Well, no, I really appreciate you for sharing it. I mean, it's just exciting to see where you've come from. How do you feel about like as a lifestyle or sustainability? Right? Because that's one of the things. Like a lot of people lose weight or get in shape or make changes, and then they can't stick with it. They fall back in their old habits.
At this point, 18 plus months in, this is almost so ingrained now that I don't know that I could turn it off. And kind of like you said, the people I'm spending time with are doing these same things. I like spending time with those people. I like how I feel and how I look when I'm in shape like this. Got back on skis for this winter. The first day on snow feels like what mid-season used to feel like after you kind of built up some ski muscles. You get on snow and I'm skiing at a performance level that would have taken me 2 months to build up to in past life. So it's I don't think I could go backwards. And the only thing I'm conscious of is the I'm shaving little bits of time off different events. I can see heart rate is lower for the same level of effort for some running, and just there's all kinds of little things to look at for improvement. And yeah, it's that stuff still motivates me too.
What about like VO2 max? Like, are you tracking that? I know like the Garmin computers usually track it for you, but like, have you
Yeah.
seen significant changes there?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and see what the data was, but I trend in the low 60s now for running and cycling.
Oh,
The little Garmin data is like, you're in the top 1% for your
yeah,
age group.
that's
I'm
phenomenal,
super,
Brian.
super happy with that. I
Yep.
also, I pulled it, there's a little curve, I think Strava shows of, your performance index, or I can't remember what the metric
Mhm.
is called.
Yeah.
But over the last year, I mean, it looks like the profile of a mountain. It's just, it's a linear growing
Yeah.
trend. I grin when I look at it. Yeah. So it's been fun just to watch how that's continually grown,
Mhm.
since last spring, basically, which is when I started training triathlon and stuff specifically.
Awesome. That's very respectable. I mean, to have a VO2 max, I mean, 60 plus, I mean, that is remarkable. And there's a lot of new research now showing like that is one of the best indicators of longevity and health and wellness. Like, everyone's what's your cholesterol, what's your blood pressure, what's your blood sugar, like all these things. VO2 max is going to be like the new metric because they've been shown if you have a high VO2 max, like elite level athletes, your risk of all cause mortality goes down dramatically. And
Yeah.
if you have someone with low VO2 max, their risk of all cause mortality is way high, right? So if there's one thing you can do, improve that, and it's going to like improve all the metrics across the board. And indirectly, if somebody is improving their VO2 max, obviously they're improving their fitness, they're improving, there's so many other lifestyle things that have to go along to correlate with that. The two main things that you want to focus on is obviously strength, but and VO2 max, and those are the two things. And then of course flexibility and mobility. But it seems like you're on the right track with all of it. I mean, that's exciting to see. Looking back at everything, I mean, what would you recommend for someone who was kind of like in a similar situation to you a couple of years ago?
For me, it was, I had some life events that gave me the motivation, and I think I took advantage of that. That drove me for the first chunk of time until it could become habit. So if you've got something that's happening and you've got the motivation, latch onto it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I know for me, things like having someone provide the structure, a coach, having someone to help with the accountability, a coach, were key to me creating that habit. I didn't have time in my world to go learn about all this stuff myself. So it was definitely worth the investment to connect with someone that could provide the structure, and then the model that said, hey, my workout's been uploaded, and you can go look at it. And if it doesn't get uploaded, I get a text message that says, um, hello, where are you? To me, that just kind of pushing through that window where you've got the life event based motivation to go create the habits was kind of what I needed. And like I said, now I don't know that I could turn it off. I don't want to. This is now part of Bryan version 2.
Right? Brian 2.0, as they say,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And that's a common thing that I've heard from several guys who've really embraced this new lifestyle is it feels better now than before. Because like that's a big deterrent for a lot of people. Like they don't want to change their lifestyle or they don't want to go on a diet or an exercise program because they're like, oh, it's going to be too painful or I want to enjoy life, right? Like, hey, life is short, enjoy it. Were you really enjoying it before? Like looking where you are now compared to where you were before, what feels better?
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know that this would feel better until I got here, but it definitely does. And yeah, I did cut out a lot of things that I used to think were enjoyable or fun, but now that I'm here, I don't miss them.
So what are like some examples for you? Like,
Booze, very, very used to. We talked about cars. I love being in the garage tinkering with cars. It was really easy to do that with a beer and then another beer and then another beer and then another beer. And
Yeah.
you're not out at a party and going completely crazy. You're just, you're spending a day in the warm garage and, beer's kind of cool and refreshing. Um, Now it's a non-alcoholic beer and I get the same, hey, it's a cool, refreshing
You're
beer.
still enjoying a cold beer, but it's a better beer choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then look, yeah, just diet, junk food and stuff like that. I don't miss it. And I guess I mentioned earlier, like keeping weight on is sometimes a challenge. So it's not like I'm not getting enough food, but it's not a bag of potato chips anymore. I grab a protein bar as a snack, which is
Mhm.
not something I ever thought I'd be doing, but they taste okay enough and gives me what I need for getting over the
Sure.
craving.
Those simple changes, I mean, it makes a difference. And again, it feels better. People don't realize how good being fit and healthy feels until they're there.
Yeah.
And I know like a lot of times people associate the pain with diet and exercise, and it really isn't. Looking back, I feel much better personally when I'm in shape. The pain, I guess, of the workout or the exertion, it's sometimes it's actually a challenge and it's invigorating. Like I don't dread it anymore.
And the other thing I find, like, tomorrow I've got a 32-kilometer flip and run to do in the morning.
That's a big
Um,
run. Yeah.
yeah, but now that I'm where I'm at, and I wouldn't do that I wouldn't have done that a year ago. A 10-kilometer run was a big weekend run. But now I do that, and like we said, we'll come back and I'll shower and I'll go about my day. And I won't be, yeah, I'll work hard during the workout, but I won't be debilitatingly sore and stuff afterwards. I'll just go do stuff. And even, I'm still doing some strength training, that it doesn't make me, I work hard during the workouts, but I'm not so sore that I'm incapacitated afterwards.
So you've overcome that hurdle of the pain. Because I mean, let's face it, if someone is not in shape and they do a big workout, and big is relative to the individual. I mean, if
Yeah.
someone's a sedentary person, a big workout could be, a half hour in the gym, and then they're ready to lay up on the sofa for the rest of the day. But like once you build up your fitness and your work capacity, you can handle that workout and then still handle everything else that you do in the day without having it, be a big deal. And it's so cool to have that strength and stamina to do that. Right? It really is.
I think
And
that's part of, the now versus a year ago, or kind of that first 6 months where you're getting started. And it is, so yeah, you are sore and like, dang, I gotta go back to the gym. I'm glad I'm doing different muscles today because
yeah,
the muscles from yesterday are still feeling it.
yeah. Like the fitter you get, the less painful it gets as well. Right? I mean, it's the less soreness you feel, the less that delayed onset muscle soreness, as they call it, DOMS, and the less fatigue in general. So it becomes an upward spiral for sure. It's inspiring to see, and I mean, I know if obviously you're feeling the change for yourself, and you're inspiring people in your social circle, friends, family, coworkers, and indirectly now will hopefully inspire other guys, to be able to just see this and relate to your story and say, you know what, maybe I can make a change as well. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Bryan. And I got to say, I have a lot of respect for what he's achieved. I mean, he went from a personal low, going through some serious struggles, getting divorced, getting diagnosed with high cholesterol and having some health challenges, to totally turning his life around, getting in his best shape in his 40s, even better than he was in his 20s, and it's just continuing to improve from there. So if this is something you're interested in, you'd like to achieve a physique transformation like Bryan did, and you want to learn more about the Muscle After 40 blueprint, then all you have to do is click on the link that I have below this video, and I have a PDF download where you can get yourself a copy of the Muscle After 40 blueprint. It's a full PDF ebook that you can download, and it outlines the entire system step by step, so you can get a good overview of what's involved, how it works, and all that kind of stuff. And if it's something that you'd like to do for yourself, then feel free to reach out to me. And I'll have my contact information down there below, and we can look into setting you up with a realistic action plan following the Muscle After 40 blueprint. So again, hopefully you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to post those down in the comment section below. And if you would like to reach out to me personally with any questions that you may have about your own fitness and fat loss goals, feel free to do so. Again, I have my contact information, my social media, and my email down there below, and I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you and see if we can map out a realistic action plan that's right for you.